The following presentation is a production of Ride the Wave Media.
We are those guys. We hope to be your guys, bringing you latest from the National Football League. Nick Ferguson joining me as always, former 10-year safety in the NFL. Pads went on this week. We are in full-blown training camp season, and it's, a lot to look forward to. But we're going to talk about a little off-field transactions, and then we're going to talk about a little on-field, previewing one of your former teams. Which one exactly? You'll have to find out, or just read the name of the episode, probably why you tapped in, because we've got one of the bigger fan bases, let's say, when we talk about the team coming into the 2024 season. Nick Ferguson, what's going on?
Nothing much, man. It's interesting that you say that the pads came on today. And usually when the pads come on, usually that's the sign of when training camp actually starts. And you start to look around and say, well, what period are we going to have a fight? Because usually when you go from shorts and shirts and you go right into pads, someone doesn't understand the tempo. Right? Someone's going either too fast or too slow, and words are exchanged. It's hot. It's the summer. Then next thing you know, it is on. But for around the league, there are not too many people, or not too many teams, rather, that have seen that. Now, the Houston Texans, they did have it, but I'm waiting to see what's going to happen in the next news cycle, and which teams are going to find their names plastered on the four-letter network. Is guess what? It is training camp. And guess who is going to be highlighted? So we'll see if we get one of those.
Well, you mentioned the Houston Texans. Let's just get the bad news out of the way. We had done, if you missed, we previewed the Houston Texans and their outlook. Nick Ferguson, one of his favorite AFC teams coming into the season. Unfortunate blow, Danico Autry, the veteran free agent pass rusher, suspended 6 games for PED use, which he says he unknowingly took a banned substance, which is a gray area, Nick. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but a huge blow for that defense, predicated on its pass rush.
Yeah, I mean, no one's what D'Amico Ryans wanted to do. I mean, you got Will Anderson on one side, and the team made some upgrades defensively overall. And then we wanted to have the ability to get after quarterbacks and force them into some tough positions, but having Autry kind of exit based on this type of situation, you would think that over the years, players would be aware of what's put in their body. And I remember when I played, a lot of guys used to go to GNC till you couldn't go to GNC anymore because the labels that they had as far as the ingredients had some other additives in it that the NFL, look, if you take it, Alex, it is on you, right? I don't care. You can tell me GNC, you purchased it from Whole Foods or Sprouts, but if you were willing to put it into your body and it did not adhere to our health bylaws, then look, that was going to be a problem for you. So this is somewhat of a small speed bump for the Houston Texans, but it's not going to be a large speed bump because I'm sure that organization is prepared to have another guy step in.
Right. They've got guys that will step in. They also had the addition of Danielle Hunter from the Vikings, and it's all about having depth at the pass rusher position. And again, we mentioned the Houston Texans, why we think they're going to be great. We didn't say CJ Stroud was suspended 6 games. We didn't say Larry Tunsil. I mean, Danico Autry is a key piece for that defense, but we think 6 games, you have to win the games at the end of the year more so than when they feel things out, especially how they balance schedules with all of your division games coming in at the end of the season. I'd be remiss too for my New England Patriots, a really scary situation for a very talented pass rusher with my New England Patriots, knowing that when you have medical ailments of this issue, it's just really scary to understand exactly what's happening. And of course, talking about Christian Barmore, who's been ruled out indefinitely with blood clots, finds out on his 25th birthday that this is something he has to deal with. This coming off signing a 4-year, $92 million extension. Nick, the richest contract awarded to a New England Patriot, not named Thomas Edward, Patrick Brady. So a huge piece of that defense, probably the second, maybe third best player on that defense after Judon or Kyle Duggar, Christian Gonzalez. Barmore is one of those guys there. So really hope that he can have a safe, speedy recovery. Not in the hospital right now, which is great, but obviously rest compared to being out on the gridiron for the football field. It's really tough, but feel like it should be mentioned because it's a team that prioritized him, and he is among one of the best coming off a career year, 8.5 sacks last year. Do you want to do your best Jerry Maguire impression, Nick Ferguson?
All right. Which one is that? Is it show me the money?
Jordan Love and Tua Tagovailoa, the Friday afternoon contract extension dump. Is that what we're going with? This time a week ago, I was talking as if Tua would be a done deal. Jordan Love as well. Actually, Jordan definitely a done deal. Tua we weren't so sure about. But your guy, Mike McDaniel, pounded his fist on the desk of one Stephen Ross, and we've got two quarterbacks now with a combined one playoff win that are now among the top 5 highest paid quarterbacks in the National Football League. I understand it's what the market dictates. It's always fun, though, when the old heads are saying Tua Tagovailoa on one day made more money than Dan Marino made his entire career. That's probably what your dad is saying after he was watching those great Miami Dolphin highlights from when he was watching them with a young Nick Ferguson.
Yeah, you know what? That's something, as people would say, call us old heads now.
Yes.
Looking at guys and the amount of money they're making at this particular point is utterly ridiculous. Now, I know you say that both of those guys have only won one playoff game, but in today's NFL, that's all you need. And timing, like location, is everything. And these guys hit at the right time. You think about Jordan Love, right? Left for dead. Everyone called him a bust because he was behind Aaron Rodgers. He gets in, he shows what he can do, and the Green Bay Packers win the playoff game.
Yep.
And no one thought that was possible with the guy who had not played a lot of football. It was like, oh my God, the sky is falling. What's going to happen without Aaron Rodgers, right? And his John Wick haircut. But you know what? Jordan Love said, don't fret. I am here to the rescue. And this is why when you look at what Gutekunst had to do and Matt LaFleur, they had no choice. The guy played well. And you're watching other young quarterbacks receive their payday. To tell Jordan Love, no, we're not going to do it, was only going to put them in a conundrum, which was going to cost them more money down the road. But when you think about a lot of these young guys and the amount of money that they have, anywhere from 51, 53, 55 a year, it makes you look back at the Patrick Mahomes contract and go, wait a minute. This guy had a 10-year contract with the Chiefs, which is unheard of, but he's now only making $43 million a year. Is Patrick Mahomes underpaid?
He just hasn't, he negotiated against himself. A 10-year contract means he's further away from the negotiating table like we've just seen. And again, full well, you notice that the contracts handed out this season, no 10-year deals. We're talking 4 years, 5 years, all averaging at about 50, 55 million a year, knowing that they will get back out on the market. And the latest TV deal that comes through, again, for the Green Bay Packers, which thank you, because they are the only publicly owned football team, we know that their value ranges somewhere between $4 and $4.5 billion. $55 million a year for the most important position of that franchise kind of seems like a drop in the ocean. But it's the market dictating and FOMO, right? You don't want to be. I'm not trying to, make anyone catch any strays, but you don't want to be the Atlanta Falcons and Desmond Ridder. You don't want to be the New York Jets with Zach Wilson and no other options. It's just teams understand that they can have a certain level of quarterback play and they will pay for it. Whether or not they're coming off an Achilles like Kirk Cousins, again, the Atlanta Falcons. My apologies. I'm not trying to catch any strays here. So, yes, it's a lot of money. And yes, guys in the 90s and the early aughts were not making as much money as Jared Goff, who got a contract extension, or Trevor Lawrence, or Joe Burrow, the guy, and the others that we've mentioned earlier. But it's really hard to win playoff games. It's even harder to win a Super Bowl. And for Jordan Love in 18 games to go into Dallas as a heavy underdog and to play the way that he did and the way that he played over the second half of the season, the guy's been in the building for 4 years. I think he's proven what he's worth. And the same thing for Tua. We saw what they looked like in the postseason with Skylar Thompson and the rest of the crew doing their best with some elite weapons on offense. So they've got the guys that they think can best effectively run the offense. The teams are worth billions of dollars. That means the quarterbacks are going to be worth tens of millions of dollars. That's just the reality of it.
I want to add this to it, because when you think about Patrick Mahomes being, by some in comparison, being severely underpaid based on what Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert are making,
right?
I say, well, Kansas City is now the new model. And the reason I say that, because your New England Patriots, that was the model. You get cast-offs from other teams. You have a veteran quarterback that you are severely underpaying him, but you're able to turn that into wins. This is essentially what Kansas City has become, because when you look at from 2023 to 2026, even though Patrick Mahomes on average is making about $43 million, and from 2023 to 2026, he's going to make a guaranteed $210 million, right? Which is utterly ridiculous. And they restructured his deal a couple of years ago to allow them to be able to sign Travis Kelce and some of the other guys.
Chris Jones was the big one.
Yes. So what they're doing, they're taking the New England philosophy, but applying it to the Kansas City roster and saying, look, we have our quarterback for a number of years. We can always manipulate the cap, give him some signing bonus money, kick the can down the street, sign other guys, because guess what? This is a Kansas City team that's won, not one, but 2 Super Bowls, and some are even projecting that could they do it again this year. So all those guys, they made their money, hand clap to you. But if you're Jordan Love, you have Reed, Christian Watson, and Romeo Doubs. At some point, the Packers are going to have an issue.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, look, the fantasy community is going nuts about Dontavian Wicks or maybe Luke Musgrave, the tight end. So they've got plenty of weapons. The youngest offensive skill group in the National Football League. There's a reason they structured Josh Jacobs' contract the way they did. They can get out clean in a couple of years, and from there maybe it's time to pay a receiver or two. You're seeing the ripple effects of that, and we'll move on to our team preview shortly here, because they're a team that went all in on their quarterback. The Kansas City Chiefs, you mentioned restructuring the contract and being able to make room for some players. We just watched, an all-pro level L'Jarius Sneed walk out, who saved that team's season in the AFC Championship game, punching the ball out at the end line, and as a shutdown corner. He has to go in a trade because they prioritized, Trent McDuffie and Chris Jones, who I mentioned earlier. The Miami Dolphins are a perfect example. In order to prepare themselves for this Tua contract extension, you knew it was getting done because Christian Wilkins, Andrew Van Ginkel, Jerome Baker, Robert Hunt, all these key pieces out the door. And so there's going to be repercussions, and we're going to see a Miami Dolphins team that, again, has the explosive weapons on offense, but critical depth and star players on the defensive side of the football. It's going to be a drastically different team than what we may have seen the last couple of years ago. So exciting to see. But nonetheless, there are repercussions for paying guys that earn these types of mega contracts. So, last thought, Nick.
Well, I mean, listen, there are consequences. But this is where the league is right now, because the salaries keep escalating for players. They're not going to go down. Now, the league is going to have to do something as a whole to try to put a cap on this, because, I mean, this quarterback salaries are ridiculous. If they keep going up, what money will you have to sign other guys? So that means a lot of teams are going to lose a lot of marquee players, because you can't afford.
Yep. He's Nick Ferguson. I'm Alex Hardy. As we continue to navigate this training camp period, getting ready for preseason football right around the corner, we do want to dedicate time every single episode to preview some of the teams around the National Football League that we find intriguing. We have no particular set order. We're not going division by division, but if you've missed, in previous episodes, we previewed the Houston Texans, the Los Angeles Rams. Make sure if those are your teams, or if you're interested in two teams that have playoff aspirations, maybe a deep run at that, feel free to go on our podcast feed, YouTube, wherever you download us for earlier those guys' episodes. Now, Nick, I mentioned we're doing a former team of yours.
Yes.
We'll save your thoughts on the Denver Broncos because today we're going to look at the New York Jets, one of the most interesting teams based on the level of expectation, whether that's built by a fan base or just simply by the arrival of Aaron Rodgers. Of course, things were an absolute disaster 4 snaps into the season, or 5. 4 snaps of the football, 1 snap of Aaron Rodgers' Achilles. Moving forward into 2024, I think with the injury to Aaron Rodgers, immediately you realize some issues with the offensive line. You realize issues with the backup quarterback. I think that was the biggest emphasis that the Jets made this offseason, but sort of big picture, Nick, I want to just start with, how are the vibes? You've got an incumbent head coach and GM that have swung and missed on a number 2 overall pick in Zach Wilson, who's now your best friend in Denver. And they've hit on a lot of other picks, but they pushed all their chips in this time a year ago for Aaron Rodgers, and we have yet to see how that comes to fruition. So, Nick, the coaches in particular, or this quarterback, to steal a line from Jerry Jones, are the New York Jets all in on this season alone?
Yeah, absolutely. Because how many years can you say that you have with Aaron Rodgers? And Aaron Rodgers didn't play last year. So maybe you can say, well, that gives him another season or even half season. But here's the one thing I definitely know. Not having Aaron Rodgers in the mix changed everything for the New York Jets last season.
Of course.
Look what they did this season. Mike Williams comes over after having, an excellent career with the Chargers, getting injured. He now gets a chance to revitalize himself with someone who's going to get him the ball. Garrett Wilson is a phenomenal wide receiver. He was last season. He's going to be even better with a healthy Aaron Rodgers. And everything for the Jets kind of hinges on the fact of Rodgers being healthy. This is why you look at the Jets offensive line and what Joe Douglas did and Robert Saleh. It was like almost a DIY situation with their offensive line. They changed everything. They changed the walls. They changed the carpets. Now it's got hardwoods on the floor. Now they have marble countertops, brass fixtures. This is what the Jets offensive line looks like. If they can keep Aaron Rodgers upright, then they have an opportunity to compete with Tua and the Miami Dolphins.
Now, this is a New York Jets organization that is, for lack of a better term, great reporting from the Athletic's Diana Rossini. And again, it's just reporting. There's conjecture. It can be he said, she said. But Aaron Rodgers had a wish list. He didn't say he did, but what was reported, I want Randall Cobb and I want, all these other guys. I want Alan Lazard. That was the other big one. He got everything that he had asked for. The Jets this offseason, I think, still have ceded control to Rodgers entering his age 41 season, but it's more organic in terms of what they did to add, right? Both in free agency and in the draft. You talked about Mike Williams. They attacked the wide receiver position. They attacked the offensive line, right? It's kind of funny, though, because all in all, yes, issues with the offensive line, issues with receivers outside of Garrett Wilson. The most money they spent on a single player in free agency was for their backup quarterback, Tyrod Taylor, getting a 2-year, $12 million contract. That was the most cash they handed out to a single player this offseason. They clearly recognized that Zach Wilson, Mike White previously, other guys that came in just weren't effective. So you bring in a veteran signal caller and Tyrod Taylor, and in the draft, Florida State's Jordan Travis. It's almost as if they have two better options than they had all the last 2 seasons if something were to happen to Aaron Rodgers. Now, they did everything they could to try to prevent that from happening, right? Tyron Smith and John Simpson coming over from the Cowboys and the Ravens, respectively. These guys are going to start. We'll see with Tyron Smith because he hasn't played 17 games. He hasn't played 16 games even for quite a long time. And in the first round, the 11th overall pick, with Brock Bowers on the board or whomever else you wanted to try to put to the Jets, Olu Fashanu, who comes from Penn State. What I really like is that he doesn't have to come in and start right away. He may just be able to do that if he's that effective, if he's going to be able to hit the ground running in training camp. And his relationship with Tyron Smith through Duke Manyweather, they've worked out with the offensive line guru together for a couple of years now. So there's already a familiarity and a bond for the veteran leader and the heir apparent who had unbelievable physical tools playing in a high-powered run game, let's say, for the Nittany Lions this past year. So the offensive line help, the receiver help. You mentioned Mike Williams, Malachi Corley, aka the Yak King. He's not Devo Samuel. Like he's one of one. But nonetheless, he racked up a ton of yards and a ton of touchdowns over at Western Kentucky, the former Hilltopper, catching passes from Bailey Zappi at one point. Shout out my New England Patriots, of course. So, look, through both the offensive line and at the receiver position, and I think one of my favorite running backs in the draft, Braylon Allen, in the 4th round, the Jets pushing their chips in on offense. And I'm curious, Nick, if this is a high-powered passing offense now, or we're just going to get a heavy dose of Breece Hall, clearly their best player on offense a year ago.
I think the best thing for the Jets is it's kind of a simple formula. It's called balance, right? You want to be able to throw the ball and run the ball. You don't want to be lean heavily either on the run or pass because it essentially makes you one-dimensional. And it dictates to the defense, all we have to do is shut down this aspect of their game plan, and then now we have them right where they want them. And knowing like Hackett is kind of like the de facto offensive coordinator because he has the title, but we all know at the end of the day, who's calling the plays at the line of scrimmage? Who's checking to certain plays? It is that guy, Aaron Rodgers. So with Breece Hall and this revamped offensive line, we're going to see more of the Jets running the ball, but running the ball in typical Mike Shanahan fashion because Hackett comes a little off that tree being with Matt LaFleur. You're going to run the ball to pass the ball. And even though, like, we think about what we saw last year with Aaron Rodgers and how he was injured, he was trying to stay in the pocket. So you want to take a pressure off a guy who is older, who's coming off injury. You want to do that by running the ball because now your offensive lineman can set the tempo. Now you can throw the short passes. Now Aaron Rodgers can do this thing where he go play action, he pulls it out, double move down the field, boom, Garrett Wilson for the touchdown.
They've clearly understood who their star players were in the draft early, and they put them in positions to succeed. And a healthy Aaron Rodgers is only going to make that better. On the defensive side of the football, you got a couple of guys coming in with experience in Robert Saleh's defense, with both Javon Kinlaw and Solomon Thomas coming over on one-year deals to solidify that defensive line. Isaiah Oliver, also from the 49ers, some key depth at the corner position behind Sauce Gardner. And in the draft, they waited until their final 2 selections. Probably one of the most interesting, intriguing draft picks in Quantez Stiggers, the corner out of, not a college football player, but he was a Toronto Argonaut, Nick, your beloved CFL, who wasn't looking to play college ball and just sort of picked it up. And again, I don't know, Nick, you would have a better perspective on this, but after playing shutdown corner in the CFL, is it almost easier transitioning to the NFL considering how much bigger the field is up north?
Absolutely. Here's the other thing you add into it. There's a 1-yard barrier between you and your wide receiver. And in some cases, that receiver might have an opportunity to move side the side or even go vertical on you. And as a guy that played in the CFL, that was once a corner in college, I honed my covering skills in the CFL for those particular reasons. And I ended up coming back to the NFL playing safety. But those covering skills helped me against Tony Gonzalez, right? And another guy, Hall of Fame guy, Antonio Gates. So there is some validation in being able to play in the CFL and having that skill set translate. But going back, as you mentioned several guys who have San Francisco 49ers ties. Why?
Right.
You know what they can do in your system. You don't have to bring them up to speed. It's almost like NIL in reverse. Like you go out and try to get these guys who are familiar with the system because or maybe in NIL who are already developed. So it's kind of football 101. You run a system, find guys who did well in your system previously, bring them in, and that helps build the culture and solidifies your scheme as though you want it taught. So all Robert Saleh is trying to do is recreate what was created in San Francisco, no different than Danico Ryan is trying to recreate with the Houston Texans. Same thing.
He is former NFL, former Saskatchewan Rough Rider, and Winnipeg Blue Bomber Nick Ferguson. Shout out the CFL. The other big addition on defense, Hassan Reddick coming in. Hasn't showed up yet, but he should be there after they jettison Bryce Huff to the Philadelphia Eagles. They kind of swapped defensive ends there. So this is a Robert Saleh defense, Nick, that wants to attack the quarterback, leave their corners on islands. They have excellent ones to be able to do that. Are there any wrinkles with this defense run by Robert Saleh, another great defensive coach, and I believe is Jeff Ulbrich still there with Gangrene? So you've got great former players and a system that was one of the NFL's best a year ago, based on a more effective offense. I mean, what does that change for this defense? I mean, you have so much familiarity with what the Jets want to do. Anything you want to zoom in on, taking a look at, what last year was their best unit, the defensive side of the football?
Well, if this defensive unit can come out and play very cohesive as though they did last year, and with a healthy Aaron Rodgers, it changes so much in the AFC East, not along just the AFC conference as a whole, because the Jets I'm going to say they had a good defense last year. Not great, but a good defense, enough to win games. The problem was they didn't get the quarterback play and offensive play that they needed. And Breece Hall, the Jets were balling from the standpoint of being able to hand the ball to the running back and even throw it to him. All they need was a quarterback that can be consistent and can attack a defense down the field. They didn't get that last year, even though Zach Wilson, man, I applaud the kid. They played Kansas City well on Thursday night, but it wasn't enough for Zach Wilson to maintain his job with the Jets or the Jets to win the game. But you bring in Aaron Rodgers. It's almost like the Broncos in Super Bowl 50. Let me take you back really quickly. The Broncos, they were doing well. Peyton Manning was having, health injury issues. Brock Osweiler came in for him. I think won 6 out of 7 games. They were in that final game of the season where they needed to win against the Chargers. And if they lost that, it was going to determine the seeding. So the offense wasn't playing well. Insert Peyton Manning, who at that point of his career, a shell of himself. I mean, Coach John Pagano, who I know really well, was coaching with the Chargers at the time. He said the same thing the Chargers players said to themselves. Oh, man. And this is just me giving you the PC version. Here comes 18 again. Even though he was a shell of himself, it changed the crowd. It changed how the wide receivers played. It changed how the defense played. So there's value in seeing a veteran quarterback out there, even though he may not be able to do the same things he used to do, Alex. It just gives you a confidence. It's almost like the other team is like, how should you have the audacity to come out here and play us when your quarterback is a shell of himself? He's not the same guy he was 12 years ago. We don't need that, right? All we need is the David Blaine trick. Make them think that we're better than we are. And then you start playing bad because you're fearful for what he's going to do, knowing as though he can't even do that anymore. That's how the Broncos end up winning a Super Bowl. And the sheriff rolled off in the sunset. So the Jets are hoping they are able to do the same thing with Aaron Rodgers.
A year ago, this Jets defense, third in the NFL against the pass, 12th in terms of scoring, but 24th in defending the run. So clearly up front is going to be a huge point of emphasis for them. So we're going to have to wait and see. But Nick, those are your New York Jets. We do this with every team that we discuss coming into the preseason. What is the absolute floor for this team? And what do you think is the ceiling? Is it as simple as Aaron Rodgers is healthy? He's capable of taking them to a Super Bowl.
Well, the floor is, you're absolutely right, keeping Aaron Rodgers upright for the entirety of the season. Because if you don't have Aaron Rodgers, you basically don't have a season. We saw that last year. And that window is closing.
Right.
So that's kind of the floor for them. The ceiling was maybe being, I don't know, 4th, the 5th seed in the playoffs, getting in and making some noise and possibly getting on a run at the right time where maybe they can challenge maybe Kansas City for that number 1 seed and maybe the right to go to the Super Bowl. And you know what? There's one person who I know would definitely be happy. Joe Willie Namath.
Joe Willie. Yeah, absolutely. The floor for this team, I feel it would be 7, 8 wins. I mean, you can't predict for injury, but I can definitely say that they're going to have trouble in the AFC East, not against New England, but I'd say looking at it in the month of July as we come into August, this is a team that I still have Buffalo ahead of them. I still have the Dolphins ahead of them too, who we discussed earlier this episode. So a 4 seed would mean winning the division, which is in the realm of possibility. But I still think that, based on what we've seen on both sides of the football, there are certain advantages that the Buffalo Bills have. I think considering how many times they've won it consecutively, it's their division to lose. I know what you're saying.
Wait. How? I mean, you have no Diggs in your receiving core. I mean, it just looks like a bunch of guys.
So what? Look at how they ran the football and phased the offense away from him in the second half of the season. I'm not saying they're going to stomp the Jets. I'm not saying they're going to sweep them or they're definitely lock them in. I still just think it's their division to lose. No. Jets just have something to prove to me.
I mean, listen, the Jets, do they have something to prove? Absolutely. I would buy that if you told me Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins are your projected winners of the AFC East, but the Buffalo Bills, to me, you got 2 running backs. Your quarterback is a running back, and your running back is a running back.
He's Nick Ferguson. I'm Alex Hardy. Of course, we will debate every position of the AFC East, but even I can admit the Patriots will likely finish 4th. Notice how I slipped likely in there. I'm just leaving the door open. Call me Lloyd Christmas. So you're telling me there's a chance. Nick, before we split, I mentioned July coming into August. I need a quick power ranking from you. I recently went to the beach over the weekend. It's something that I enjoy immensely. You used to be out on our shores in Southern California, but now you reside in Denver. So I need a quick power ranking. Bodies of water to spend in during the summer. We've got oceans, we've got lakes, we've got pools. Anything else I'm missing here? I just need I need your top 3. Rank them.
So lake, ocean, pool, creek
/ river. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm with you. There's Georgia Nick coming out.
Yes. So, and you say pool, right?
Yes.
All right. So for me, I'm going to choose the unpopular pool. And here's why.
Number 1?
Number 1.
Wow.
Number 1. Then a creek, number 2, a lake, number 3. What else do we have? What am I missing? Ocean at the bottom, right? And here's why. Because when you're in the pool, you don't have to worry about anything hunting you. You're not prey unless you at some kind of country club in West Palm and there's an older woman who's looking for a younger gentleman. Maybe you fall prey to that. Other than that, no. Creek, lake, ocean, There's always something lurking in the water that you can't see underneath you. In the pool, everything is clear. You can see every single thing. And that's why I love pools the most, because guess what? If you don't want to be in the water, you can always be poolside. See, there it is.
Can I bring you an update from Paris for the Olympic Games, Nick?
Yes.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I was trying to cram this story in, and this is kind of my opening to do so. Did you know that in a profile of the U.S. swimming team provided to us by the Wall Street Journal, that just about every swimmer on the team fully admits to peeing in the pool? How about three-time Olympian Lily King? Quote, "I've probably peed in every single pool I've swam in. That's just how it goes." So, Nick, you can pee in the ocean. I'm not going to be anywhere near that. If you're in the pool, it's close quarters for, again, I'm not, if Lily King is at the barbecue, she can stay out of the pool as far as I'm concerned.
Hold on, man. This is not an episode of Caddyshack where the Snickers bar is thought to be something else. Look,
Goody!
There's so many people who have tinkled in the pool, and the whole bit was that if you do, the water would turn blue or purple to indicate that
that's what they need, right?
Right, but they don't want to embarrass anyone. This is why the water is heavily chlorinated. So kudos to those individuals taking a little tinkle in the pool.
He's Nick Ferguson. Again, pool enjoyer, but again, just don't mix up with the Olympic athletes. That's all I'll say. I'm Alex Hardy, bringing you the latest from the National Football League and I guess the Olympic swimming pool there in Paris. Yes. We are those guys. We hope to be your guys. Check us out right here, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, at Nick Ferguson _25 on all social. If you have any questions about your team, we got to dive into this fantasy football stuff too. My draft completed, by the way, that started 3 weeks ago. So we can get into that. We'll get into that another time. Nick, let's get on out of here. What do you have to say to the people?
Hey, who knew that LeBron James still had more in the tank? Whatever he's drinking or eating, sign me up for it.
All right, Bron. Jason Tatum looked good too on the bench.
0 minutes.